All right, so we talked earlier about asking what your website is for, and that was about thinking about what kind of website you're building. There are different varieties. I'm sure I missed a few, but the major ones we talked about in an earlier conversation. And then we talked more about discovering who your website is for, and that's all about audience. But today we're going to talk about why. And the question here is, why, client, are we going to go on this journey of usability and content and fun and pain, honestly, together for the next several months? And that is a conversation about challenge and opportunity. Why? Okay, so first, asking why is a higher order question than what or how. Any chance you get to level up the questions you're asking is a good one when you're starting a web project. And even if you're not working on strategy, and I will tell you, someone should be, but maybe it's not you, your job is to get to the root of a need. And to do that, you have to dig deeper than what needs to be done and how it'll be done. And that need you're chasing is maybe an audience need for information, direction, validation, a thing that they want to buy, a new or different product or service. Or it could be a company need for exposure, for connection, for clarification, justification of a new thing that they're bringing into the world. I'm going to share my screen and show you how this works in brand discovery, but this would also work for determining a website's why. And this illustrates really well the difference between that surface level what and a core level, sort of DNA level why. So let me share my screen. All right, this is a concentric circle exercise that we use. I just call it basics on the content and brand discovery. We use it regardless of whether we're exploring brand in the workshop or we're exploring just content for a website or the point of a website. But it takes you through various levels ever deeper of questioning. And so you can see that what is on the outside of the bullseye. It's the most baseline question. It's the surface level question. And honestly, when I ask this question, and I'm going to do it in terms of, this brand exercise here, but I'll also flip it to what we would ask in terms of a website's why or what or how. It's actually kind of hard sometimes for clients to boil their what down to something that's very, very basic. So I'll use the example of Uber, right? Uber is on its what level. Uber drives people around. And there might be more ways to say that, Uber picks people up and drops them off places. Uber is a car service. Uber is transportation. So, but you don't want to go any deeper than that in the what. That is just basically what you do. For a website, that what is going to be what we talked about 2 conversations ago. What are you trying to accomplish on this website? Are you trying to sell something? Do you just need exposure? Do you need to step out of the gate with a really sparkly kind of entrance? Do you need to attract the attention of a specific audience? That's what kind of website. How, on the other hand, it's kind of, in brand, it's about special sauce. How do you do your thing differently than anyone else does? In the Uber example, Uber does it differently than, say, traditional taxi services, at least by having an app that you can use to call your car. And it has all of these features. You might list those features might be in a how if they're differentiating features. Might be that they're faster, they're more seamless, that they're easier to access. Those kind of descriptive words go into how. And we'll talk about how for a website in another conversation. And I realized when I structured these, I did them as what, why, and how. And I'm not really sure why, but I'm sure that that will make sense when we get to why, or sorry, when we get to how. But how, in terms of a website, is how are we going to accomplish these complex bunch of moving pieces that make up creating something from start to finish. How is about how are we going to get imagery? How are we going to create content? How are we going to interface with you as a client? How are we going to make sure that everyone communicates in a way that they are comfortable with or that is going to be successful? So we'll talk about that in another conversation. But why is the center of the bullseye, because it is the highest order question, the deepest question. In brand, we ask why because we want to know why a thing even exists. As I said, it's a justification of why you're even doing the thing that you're doing. And in brand, we would say, okay, why do you do what you do? There's ways to phrase this. You could say, what gets you up in the morning to go to your job if you're a CEO? Why did you start this company? Why does the thing that you're building need to be here in the world? And for Uber, I don't know what their actual why is because I don't work for Uber, but I can make some guesses. It is probably at the outset, it was because taxi services were not available everywhere and irregular and erratic and difficult to hail one in some places, and expensive and unreliable. And they thought there's got to be a better way, and we can add technology to that and make it easier for just normal people to get where they need to go. A why is sort of a philosophical question. It's what part of the good in the world do you want to become part of? It is what's the deepest, most DNA level thing that you're trying to accomplish. And a why on a website, which I'll talk about in a moment, is about a couple of things. It's about drilling down past, why do we need to make this website? Well, because we've got a trade show. No, that's not really why. There are other reasons. You don't spend, $50, $60, $100,000 just because of that. There's other whys. Why? Because we have an audience we need to reach. Well, let's dig a little bit deeper than that. And I'll talk about some particular whys here in a moment. Other things I like to ask in this part of the workshop are, as you can see these two little stickies down here, what's the backstory? Like, why? What's the story of the company in terms of brand, but what's the backstory? What's got us to this point? You have a website that hasn't been developed or updated in 10 years. What got us here? And then you can get information from that about challenges, about leadership, about what you might encounter as you're moving forward. And then why now is also a really great question. I like to ask that one in every web discovery. What has got us to the point where we're saying today is the day, or a month ago is the day when we signed the contract or whatever. So that also gives you information about urgency and about intent. So that's how we do it in brand discovery, with a little bit of a sidetrack into asking why for a website. But so a website's why is different than the what, which we covered previously. Answer to what is a noun. It's awareness. It's information. Knowledge, leadership, sales. It's tactical. It informs the parts and pieces, and then how we turn the dial on time and effort that we're going to spend on various things like technology, features, strategy, or design. And it's different than how, which is, as I said, out of order here, but it's how do we get the surprisingly hard parts of this done? How is a verb, right? It's a game plan. It's an organization strategy. It's a checklist. Or really, it's all of those things if you're doing it right. Why, on the other hand, is a raison d'etre, if you want to use a really fancy term. It's literally purpose, reason for being. It's a justification. So I tell my writers all the time that if a word or a sentence isn't meaningful, if it doesn't provide value, or if it's not useful in the spot that you have it in, it probably doesn't need to be there, honestly. That's a tiny raison d'etre. It's sort of like a copy d'etre. But a website's why is a much bigger justification. And drilling down to that why can be really informative. And here's how it can be informative: to do this concentric circles, to ask the questions. First, knowing that why can help you understand the mindset and personality of your client's brand or business, or even their leadership style. So why gives you information about what's going on under the hood, a company's values, what's important to the business, what they believe in, what their goals are, as well as some more surface stuff like what's going on right now that is pushing this decision forward, why are we doing this? And I want to note that this isn't the same as asking why a product or a business exists. That's a brand why. But asking this kind of why can help you get a glimpse of brand strategy. If you're working in a situation that's not been defined in terms of a brand, it can give you a tiny bit of grounding with that strategic story, something to build on, something to make design or experience choices on. It can give you hints, I guess, if you, for some reason, cannot go through this process of brand strategy, which is arguably, it's better than nothing. And if you do have brand to build from, it can keep you and the client a little bit honest and give you information about how aligned internally and externally the company is. So for example, you figure out the why of the site is we need to claw out of this hole that we've been in. Our credibility has been tanked. And the brand is about all this long-standing proven excellence. You know that there is a disconnect there. There is a conflict. And so you have more information than you came in with, right? Why can also help you determine, are we even building a website? Is what the client really needs an actual website? Or is everybody's time and money better spent building something else? Is it an app? Is it a portal? Is it a printed brochure, a sign on the highway? I mean, you get the picture. You can find out if this is even the right mode of delivery for what you're there trying to accomplish. Why can also help you narrow down your focus. Is the why because the site we have is ugly? That's a very simple why. You'll want to dig into the particulars of that and why they think that. If it's not obvious, it's usually really obvious. But then you know that this is a project that is all about design. And that is what they're going to be looking for, and that's what they're going to expect from you, so you can turn the dial on that. Why gives you a sense of the challenges that you might face. Is there an understanding hurdle we need to get over? Is the why nobody gets what we do as a company? So how can we use the site to clarify and simplify? What do we need to do to make sure people understand us the next time around when we do this revision? And then finally, why can give us good information about the opportunities that exist in creating a site well, to doing the right thing. What can happen if we really knock this out of the park? Our site's why is, say, people need to know this product. It is life-changing. Okay, so what can we do to create an experience that lights up the benefits of this brand like a fireworks display, right? So what do we need to focus on? What do we need to put out front? What do we need to spend the time and energy on to make sure that this stands out and like shines like a diamond? So we ask why build this site, because why is a lighthouse. You take that beacon of why and direct everything you're doing, all the parts and pieces of site creation, from the blueprints, the wireframes and sitemap, to the communication of it, content, photography, illustration, to the beauty of it, the visual design, the flow and feel, the tone, and the technicality of it, the way it's constructed, its inner workings, the machinery that makes it accessible and usable. And you run toward that why with all of that. You fulfill it. You make the why obvious and visible so everybody can visit the site and feel it.